what happened in Week 11 of the NFL season, as well as doing some previews, predictions for gambling for Week 12. So without further ado, let's jump right into this stuff. We're going from Thursday Night Football last week, Titans versus Packers. The Titans get a big win here. The Packers, we thought were going to get some momentum based off of the win over the Cowboys the week before, but it showed, just to be kind of a fluke, unfortunately, because the Titans are a tough team, so they drag you into the mud. They make you play their type of football game, which is like run the ball, play defense, just pass the ball just when it's needed. And the Packers could not really handle the physicality of the Titans. Derrick Henry was all over this game. He had a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown, that famous jump pass he likes to do near the goal line. It proved to be a little bit too much for the Packers, even at home. It was snowing. It was an awesome football game. But at the end of the day, the Titans got it done, and they are going to be the ones that win the AFC South this year. They're pretty much running away with the division because all the rest of the other teams are just kind of lackluster, unfortunately. So let's get into the next game as we get done with that Titans-Packers recap. Ravens versus Panthers. This one, I'm not going to say too much about it. Panthers are not very good. Ravens win again. So they're atop the AFC North now, as they have been for the last few weeks. The Bengals are nipping at their heels as they keep winning as well, and I'll get to that later. But the Ravens just keep winning games that they're supposed to win. Lamar Jackson's doing an incredible job with just a ragtag group of weapons right now. He really should be more involved in the MVP voting and that conversation in general. All these shows talking about, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, blah, blah, blah. But man, Lamar Jackson is getting slept on because he is just dragging this Ravens offense, kicking and screaming to victories, and he deserves a lot of credit. And one thing I do want to say is this is something we like to do with a lot of quarterbacks, especially the minority quarterbacks in the league, is saying that they can't get stuff done in the playoffs, especially if they're like a running quarterback. So I just want to go ahead and put this out there. It is, I don't even know what the date is right now, but it doesn't really matter. This is way before the playoffs even begin. I just want to put this out there. If the Ravens get into the playoffs, which they probably will, they're probably either going to win or get a wild card spot going into the AFC playoffs. If they lose in the first round, I do not want to hear any crazy indictments on Lamar Jackson, how he couldn't get it done again, and it's just a recurring theme, blah, 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 blah. That is a load of BS considering his weapons right now. Rashad Bateman is out with his foot injury. His number one target, gone for the season basically. And then Mark Andrews, he is been in and out of the lineup the last few weeks, and we're going to hope to see if he can come back and be healthy for the remainder of the season and then through the playoffs potentially. But he's banged up, so he's not at 100%. And then you just got, like I said, this ragtag group of players. You got Demarcus Robinson, Devin Duvernay, James Prochet. You have just potential. I mean, Gus Edwards has been banged up, but he's a pretty solid running back. Then you have Kenyon Drake, who is he's just okay. He's just a guy, really, at this point in time. He was decent when he was with the Dolphins, but it's just been a rough go of it for the last few years for him. He can have some splash, games here and there, but it's just nothing crazy impressive. So basically what I'm saying, and the Ravens defense is just okay this season. They haven't been that great. They figured some things out as the season has progressed, but they started out really, really bad, so they lost some games due to that. They gave up a lot of leads. They gave up a lot of 20-point leads this season. And that's not all on Lamar Jackson. Some of the games where he's made some decisions that weren't great this season, but at the end of the day, he's got his team at 7-3, and they're atop the division, and that's never a division that's easy to win. So I just want to put that out there. Let's not make this whole grandiose statement about Lamar Jackson if he ends up losing the first round of the playoffs this year, because his team is bad around him. All right, after I get done ranting there, let's go to the next game. We got Bills-Browns. Bills get it done. They move this game to Detroit, so it's the Bills and Browns playing in Detroit because this upcoming Thursday on Thanksgiving, the Bills play in Detroit, so they thought it would just be, logistical reasons. They thought that would be smart to do. So this game thankfully gets played. It doesn't get postponed or anything because of the crazy snowstorm in Buffalo. But what does happen is the Bills get it done. They figured out in this game, from what I could tell, that they can rely on other people other than Josh Allen and get the job done and win a football game and win it handily. So I think going forward, that's going to be a good thing for the Bills because their offense was so Josh Allen centric that it put way too much pressure on him, especially when he's got an injured elbow right now. He really doesn't need to be throwing the ball overly, just like 60 times a game like he kind of was the last few games. So I like the fact that they, stayed balanced in this football game and ran all over the Browns and got the job done. I know there was like the scene where Stephon Diggs was a little, frustrated that he wasn't getting the ball, but at the end of the day, they get the W, and he will be effective and will be used quite a bit going forward. So the Bills have the Lions on Thursday, and I think they have found out their formula going forward. So I think the Lions are probably going to get smoked, but that's unfortunate. But let's go on to the next game. Commanders versus Texans. Commanders hanging around in that NFC East, man. They beat the Eagles last week, and they roll the Texans this week. This was a good game for the Commanders. Their defense played well. Their offense is doing just what they have to do to win the football games. Taylor Heineke throwing the ball just when he has to, not too much, because when he has to throw the ball a lot, mistakes can happen. So they're really just mitigating those, crazy turnover type plays by running the ball quite a bit. So Commanders get it done again. They're hanging around, like I said, in that NFC East. It's getting more and more competitive right now as some of the other teams are doing some things. I'll get to that stuff later. But yeah, let's go to the next game. NFC East game once again, or NFC East team, I should say. Eagles versus Colts. Eagles bounce back after the loss to the Commanders, and they respond by almost losing to the Colts, though. This game is way closer than it should have been. The Eagles were trailing by 10 points going into the fourth quarter. They hadn't come back from a 10-point deficit like that in the fourth quarter since 2010, which was the Miracle at the Meadowlands #2 when Deshaun Jackson returned that punt touchdown against the Giants. So it was good to see the Eagles respond to some adversity, especially since they were coming off a loss. They came out flat and kind of slow in this game against the Colts, against a team they really shouldn't have, and they responded by coming back in the fourth quarter and eventually winning this football game. Jalen Hurts really had to put the team on his back. The offense was struggling pretty much all game until that last drive where Jalen Hurts drove him down the field, mostly on the back of his legs. He did make some decent throws throughout the game, but it was a lot about the running game, and that proved to be a little bit too much for the Colts, unfortunately. They just couldn't really contain Jalen Hurts' legs, so Eagles get the job done. It was not pretty. It was a very ugly win. We just signed in this literally on Wednesday, Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. They played a significant part of the defense, actually. I mean, they literally started. It was impressive for them to be coming completely off the street, and Linval Joseph had a very good game. Ndamukong Suh had a very good game. They combined for a half a sack together. They literally had a sack together, so that was pretty cool to see that they came straight off the street and performed. So going forward, I think that's going to really help the Eagles' run defense and defensive line rotation and depth at the same time. So let's get into the next game. But Eagles get the job done. They're 9-1, still got the best record in football. So we keep rolling. Hopefully we can keep this thing going right into the 1 seed. Next game, Patriots versus Jets. This one had some AFC East implications. The Jets lose this game on the back of a terrible offensive performance from Zach Wilson, essentially. The only reason the Patriots win the game was 3-3 going to the last few seconds. Jets punt the ball off, and Marcus Jones returned the touchdown, or the punt for a touchdown, and that was all she wrote. And, of course, the soundbite coming out of that game was the fact that Zach Wilson was asked if he felt like he let his defense down by the fact that they only let the Patriots score 3 points and their offense only responded with 3 points itself. And he said no, which is very discouraging when you're on that team, when you're a fan of that team. Pretty much any fan of NFL knows that that's just such a layup when it comes to the media. If they ask you that, just say yes and move on. You don't even have to expand on the question. But he is, I don't know what's going on with him and his brain right now, but man, he's just got to start hitting the layups, because if he doesn't, he's going to be out of there. I mean, I really think Joe Flacco, if he was in there in that game, would have won that game. There were some really bad missed throws, and the Jets are just not going to commit to him if he keeps saying these ridiculous things and not taking accountability at all. So it's an unfortunate situation for the Jets. They dropped from second into last place in the AFC East there. And so the Jets, the Patriots now, I believe, are third. So they've replaced them. So yeah, it's a crazy division because you get the Dolphins and the Bills playing well again. So it's crazy. But let's go to the next game. We got Lions versus Giants. The Lions smoked the Giants. I did not see this one coming. There was a lot of people I kept hearing here and there that people were saying, I don't know, man, this line is super fishy. I think that this could be a spot where the Giants drop one because Detroit's offense can be explosive at times, and that proved to be correct. The Lions rolled the Giants. I mean, the Giants have never had to really come back from a crazy deficit like this in a game, and they showed that they really couldn't get it done. Daniel Jones really hadn't had to throw the ball a whole lot in this game. He threw for over 300 yards because they were from behind the entire game. Saquon Barkley was not super effective, unfortunately, in this game for fantasy owners, if you have him. So, yeah, Giants drop one, which makes them go from second to third in the NFC East, which is a big deal for them because they were really hoping to, obviously if they're third in the NFC East, there's still a very good chance they get the wild card based on their, record at the end of the season, which the record's still good. So, and they still, I think, have some layups on their schedule, but this just shows that the Giants are not foolproof. Next game, Cowboys-Vikings. This was a huge game of the week, obviously. Cowboys just put it to the Vikings. The Vikings proved to be a little bit more fraudulent than we think. I mean, the fact that they beat the Bills was like, it's been so many one-score games, one-score victories that the Vikings have put together that, like, you would have to believe that at some point, the shoe's going to drop and they're going to, lose to some of these teams. And obviously they have some kryptonite in the NFC East as the Eagles smoked them on Monday night in week 2. And then the Cowboys smoked them this past week. It wasn't really even close. Tony Pollard had an incredible game. He is super explosive and awesome in the passing game, running game. It doesn't really matter. They need to get him the ball more. I probably shouldn't say that out loud so Jerry Jones and that whole organization don't hear that, because I don't want them to give him the ball more, considering the Eagles do not need a team nipping at their heels when it comes to the division or the 1 seed or whatever it may be threatening. So, yeah, Cowboys get a big W. Vikings drop another game. So they're now 8-2. Cowboys are right there. They are second in the division in the NFC East again. They've taken over the place of the Giants. So you got Eagles, Cowboys, Giants, and the Commanders. And like I said, all these teams in the NFC East right now are very, very competitive. So going forward, this is going to be a very interesting division to watch when it comes to playoff time, because there is a chance, and there's not a huge chance, but there is a chance that all 4 teams in the NFC East could make the playoffs. Next game, we have the Bengals versus the Steelers. This was just, I'm not going to speak too much on this. The Steelers were competitive in this game. I didn't really know if they were going to be, that competitive. But at the end of the day, the Bengals won the game. Joe Burrow and that offense are doing just enough to get it done right now and keep themselves, in contention in that AFC North division with the Ravens. So Bengals get it done again. They're waiting patiently for Jamar Chase to potentially get back as soon as possible so that they can have him back for the playoff run. But right now they're getting the job done as they wait for him. Next game, Chiefs-Chargers. This was Sunday Night Football, and this was a big game for the Chargers. They, if they could have won this game, they would have pulled very close within that division to the Chiefs. But the Chiefs, man, they just proved to be too much. Even with all the crazy injuries that they've sustained, Juju was out of this game. McCole Hardman was out of this game. Kadarius Toney ended up having to leave this game for a hamstring. So he's running out there with Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Sky Moore, Justin Watson. Obviously, he's got his guy, Travis Kelce. Pat Mahomes does, I should say. And they got the job done once again. Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelce connect for the game winner. I mean, it's just, they are unstoppable, basically. So that team's incredible. They are going to, I think, waltz into that number 1 seed for the AFC, and I see them potentially being in the Super Bowl. I think they probably will being in the Super Bowl this year. So that's going to be a tough competition for whoever ends up being in the NFC Championship or wins that. So it's going to be crazy going forward, but the Chiefs are playing good ball right now. And of course, the more healthy they end up getting, especially on the defensive side and the offensive side, man, they're going to be tough to play. So Next game, Monday Night Football, 49ers versus Cardinals. That was last night. It was competitive for a little bit. Colt McCoy, was basically doing his job. But at the end of the day, 49ers are just too much for the Cardinals there. The 49ers, man, they're a well-oiled machine right now. They're getting to the point where they're a scary football team for the NFC competitors. They have taken the division from the Seahawks in the NFC West. The Seahawks were on bye, so that things can change, in the near future. But I like both of those teams a lot, the Seahawks and the 49ers. The problem is the 49ers are 4-0 in that division. The Seahawks are not. They have some losses in the division. So the 49ers are rolling right now. They're getting hot. That running game is incredible with Christian McCaffrey. He is such a factor in the passing game as well. Then you got all kinds of weapons, like obviously George Kittle had a big night last night. Deebo Samuel had a good night. Brandon Ayuk had a good night. I mean, they scored a lot of points. So it's just, and of course, the 49ers defense is good too. They have speed, and they're smart, and they're physical, and they can get after the quarterback. So they're a very complete team. Really, the only thing that can set them back is Jimmy G and some of his bad decisions. And once, basically when the pass rush gets to him, what kind of decisions he makes. So that's really the only thing that can spoil the 49ers from making a really good playoff run this season. All right, that's pretty much it for the recap of Week 11. We're going to get right into Week 12 and the gambling predictions and preview. We're going to start out with the first game here, Bills -9 versus the Lions. I think I got to go with the Bills here. The Lions are probably going to feel a little bit like they're feeling themselves a little bit. Their offense is playing well, but I think the Bills really figured some things out this last game against the Browns where they can stay balanced and really run the ball. And that Lions defense is not good. So if you get a lead on them, I think they can, like I said, the Bills can stay balanced and just roll on the Lions. So I like the points there for them. Cowboys -9 versus the Giants. Man, it's an NFC East game. I really should be a little bit more conservative here and say that I'll take the Giants with the points because they're always a little bit more closer than they should be. But right now, the Cowboys, their offense just looks too good, and I don't know if the Giants' defense can really contain it right now. I know if the Cowboys get a lead, it's going to be very, very tough for the Giants' offense to keep up, just kind of like what happened in the Detroit Lions and Giants game this past week. So I got to go Cowboys with the points here at -9. Vikings -3 versus the Patriots. This one, all three of these right here that I've listed, before are actually on Thanksgiving as well. So it's going to be a nice little lineup for us while we're eating a bunch of food. So Vikings -3 versus the Patriots. I'm going to take the Patriots in the points here. I think the Vikings do have a decent chance of winning this game, so I'm kind of threading the needle here. But I think the Patriots defense can really get after the quarterback, and that's when Kirk Cousins makes his bad decisions, when he starts to crap his pants in the pocket, and so he can throw some picks, fumble the ball, blah, blah, blah. I just think the Patriots have the ability to keep this really close, so I like the Patriots and the 3 points there. Next one, Dolphins -12.5 versus the Texans. This is a ton of points, obviously, but I got to go Dolphins. The only thing that scares me about this game is the fact that if the Dolphins do get up by a lot, then they just start running the ball and whatnot. They stop passing the ball, which can happen. The Texans can kind of backdoor cover there, so that does scare me a bit, but I think the Dolphins will roll the Texans. Ravens -4 versus the Jaguars. I got to go Ravens here. I feel like this past game against the Carolina Panthers, they did cover that. Well, no, they didn't cover. I think the problem with the Ravens is they just couldn't get up for that team. And I think the Jaguars are a little bit better competition than the Panthers right now. And they're in the division for them. So I think it's one of those situations where the Ravens will understand, the value of beating this team, and they will really put it to them. The only thing that scares me about this, obviously, is just the lack of weapons right now that the Ravens have. But hopefully, they'll get Gus Edwards back coming off that hamstring, and I think that he can have a really good day. Next game, Commanders -4 versus the Falcons. Commanders have been hot, but the Falcons have been super scrappy, man. They beat the Bears, obviously. That was a solid game by them, and they are going to be missing Kyle Pitts now. That doesn't bode well for their offense, but they didn't really use him in the first place anyways, which is very unfortunate for them. I don't know what's going on with them, especially for fantasy owners. They're pissed off about the Falcons and Arthur Smith not featuring their best player. Weird situation. But anyways, Falcons, very feisty. I'm taking the Falcons and the points there. I'll take the 4 points. I think the Commanders can definitely win this game still, but the Falcons are still fighting for their chance at winning the NFC South. The Buccaneers are not too far ahead of them in the division, so they'll want to play tough. So I'll take the points in the Falcons because they've been scrappy. Next game, Jets -4.5 versus the Bears. Man, this is such a tough one because I know the Jets just came off one of the worst offensive performances like pretty much ever. Zach Wilson looked stupid. He looked bad. They did not commit to him as the starting quarterback for this upcoming week. So there's a chance it could be Mike White or hopefully it's Joe Flacco. I don't know what they have this whole like love fest for Mike White in New York for, but I think Joe Flacco would absolutely get the job done for this offense right now. He would do at the very least, which would pretty much win them a lot of games because the Jets defense is so good. And the Jets offense has a ton of weapons. So I feel like things can change here. If Joe Flacco is starting this game, I will take the Jets -4.5. But if it's Zach Wilson, I will say Bears with the points at 4.5 because the Bears offense can be explosive. Hopefully Justin Fields is going to be healthy for this one. So a lot of things can change here. If Justin Fields is not playing because of that shoulder, if Zach Wilson is benched, there's a lot of factors that can change my decision here. But going forward, I think I'm going Bears with the 4.5 points. Next game, Buccaneers -3 against the Browns. I got to go Bucs here. I think the Bucs are about to get on a roll. I think they figured out that they can really run the ball with Fournette and Rachaad White and then be balanced with, the passing attack with Brady. Chris Godwin's getting a little bit more healthy by week because of the ACL. Mike Evans is still very good. And I just think that offense is going to start clicking here soon, and they're going to make their playoff run. And it's going to be impressive because Brady's going to rally the troops once again like he always does going towards the playoffs. Next game, Bengals -1.5 versus the Titans. I like the Titans here. Kind of like how I was saying about the preview with the Titans and Packers. The Titans just drag you into their type of football game, and I don't know if the Bengals are ready for that right now. The Bengals were ready for that last year in the playoffs when they played, but that was a very close game. I think the Titans are not as good of an offensive team this year, but I think they're a more balanced team. I think their offense and defense is very complementary. When the defense is playing well, you got Derrick Henry running the ball and killing the clock. And Ryan Tannehill's making plays right now. He is throwing the ball to Treylon Burks, which has been a nice little addition to them since he just came off of IR literally last week. Robert Woods is now stepping it up. I think he's getting more and more healthy coming off of his ACL tear as well. And Nick Westbrook-Ikine is playing when he has to. Austin Hooper's a decent player. So they got some players over there. So I like the Titans and the points here. I think the Titans can win this game outright. And it's going to be a big game for them. Another AFC opponent. Next game, Broncos -2.5 versus the Panthers. Man, I wouldn't touch this game with a 10,000-foot pole. This game is ugly. I'll take the Panthers, though. I don't even want to give you really any analysis because I would never actually bet this, and I'm not going to make this one of my gambling predictions, so we'll just move on, honestly. Seahawks -3.5 versus the Raiders. Love the Seahawks in this spot. Seahawks coming off a bye. Probably going to be more healthy than they were before. Maybe just a little bit, but anything helps at this point in the season. Kenneth Walker's still good. Geno Smith's still playing pretty well. DK Metcalf, they got weapons. The defense is playing way better than we were expecting for the Seahawks. The Raiders I know they just won this past game against the Broncos. The Broncos are terrible. They can't score points. The Raiders are struggling on offense and defense this season, so I like the Seahawks to really just roll them. 3.5 is, I think, pretty generous for the Raiders. Next game, Chargers -4.5 versus the Cardinals. I'm going Cardinals here. The Chargers are one of those teams where I will never bet them with points because they have such an ability to let teams back in ball games with, just many factors when it comes to, especially like Brandon Staley's, he just wants to always go for all these fourth downs. Even it doesn't even matter down and distance, circumstance where you're at on the field, blah blah blah. It doesn't even matter. Brandon Staley is just a nutcase, so he's going to go for fourth downs, and he's going to lose them at some points, and that gives the other team momentum in places where they probably shouldn't or wouldn't have it in any other game script. So I like the Cardinals to cover here. I think Kyler's probably going to be back in this game. Even if it's Colt McCoy, though, I still like it. They can still be competitive, and the Chargers like to charger. So, yeah, I'm going Cardinals minus 4.5 in this game. Chiefs, minus 14.5 against the Rams. Man, the Rams would have fallen from grace, huh? It's it's coming all to bite them back in the butt because of how much, assets they've traded away. How many big-time players they signed and put on their team, for the Super Bowl run, which obviously it paid off. But that credit card is maxed out right now, and they're feeling the pain from it. And so the Rams are just really bad. Matthew Stafford leaves this past game with a concussion again. So that's like twice in the last 2 or 3 weeks or whatever it is. So there's no way I see him starting this football game against the Chiefs. The Chiefs are rolling right now, and so I have to go Chiefs minus 14.5 on the Rams because the Rams are just really bad. That O-line's really bad. The defense is just okay, and they're without Cooper Kupp. I mean, they just don't have weapons. It's really just a sad situation for the Rams right now, but I mean, they would probably tell you it was plenty worth it to get that Super Bowl win. All of it's just coming back to bite them in the rear right now. 49ers minus 9 versus the Saints. I'm going 49ers. The Saints are not very good. They beat a very bad Rams team, like I was saying just before this past week. And Andy Dalton has the capability of having an incredible game like he did against the Rams or an absolutely terrible game. And I think this is going to be one of those situations because I like the 49ers defense quite a bit. They can get after the quarterback. Andy Dalton can throw pick sixes, multiple of them. He's done it before. He did it against the Cardinals this season. And so I like the 49ers and the minus 9 there. Eagles, minus 7 versus the Packers. This is a situation where, man, once again, I got to see it to believe it. The Eagles have not been covering as of late, obviously because they lost against the Commanders, but they definitely didn't cover against the Colts this past week. It was, I think it was also minus 7. So I got to see it to believe it. Can we stop the run game of the Packers? They have, obviously Aaron Jones is very good. Austin Dillon. I said Austin Dillon. That is not his name at all. A.J. Dillon, I should say. A.J. Dillon has not been very good this season, mostly because they haven't been in game scripts where he's been effective because he's more of a run the clock out kind of running back, like up in the fourth quarter, pound the rock kind of guy. So he hasn't been very effective this season, but Aaron Jones is a very explosive running back. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He has to be utilized quite a bit because of the Packers' lack of weapons. Christian Watson has been very good the last 2 weeks now, so that's a nice little addition for them. And then you have the likes of Randall Cobb, who is just a trusted source for Aaron Rodgers to throw to. So that offense can do some things, but their offensive line has been very turnstile type this season, where they have given Aaron Rodgers quite a bit of pressure to handle. So I like the Eagles to end up winning this game, but I think the Packers will cover, so I'm going Packers and the points at 7. Next game and last game, Monday Night Football. Nobody should watch this game. This game is going to be bad. Colts, minus 2.5 versus the Steelers. I'm taking the Steelers. Colts are not very good. The Steelers were at the very least competitive this past game against the Bengals, and they showed that their offense can be pretty decent. And so I like Kenny Pickett to throw to his weapons. George Pickens has been playing pretty well these past few weeks. Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris was playing well this past week against the Bengals. And the Colts, man, it's really just, can you get after Matt Ryan? Because when you can get after him, he will float the ball and he will give you chances to make plays on the ball. And I like that because I think TJ Watt and that defense can do that. So I'm going Steelers and the points there. So that pretty much wraps up the podcast there. I appreciate everybody tuning in and listening. I want to shout out once again my guy Weston for editing this podcast. He's the man. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our Apple podcast or Spotify podcast. Leave a review and a rating. That would be incredibly helpful if you could do that, please. And then, follow us on all our socials at Twitter, at Coordinated Chaos there, Coordinated Chaos on Instagram, and on TikTok. TikTok is where I normally do all of my gambling stuff, as well as Instagram. I'll post all of it everywhere. So yeah, look forward to that this coming week, and we will talk to you next week. See ya.